You guys did that. We are collecting data from the Pet Clinic application. We did that as well. We are running another Pet Clinic application. Remember, we have two. We have one listening on port 8080, and the other one that is distributed is listening on port 8084, right? You change the Docker Compose file, and that implementation have Prometheus. We are sending the data to New Relic. We are getting information from Docker. This mostly because we have instrumented the infrastructure agent, right? And we are getting information from Kubernetes as well. Yesterday, we created a manifest file that we apply to our cluster, and we are collecting information from there. You could see that when you deploy a pod, you'll see the pod being deployed on the New Relic UI. Okay. This Kubernetes cluster that we implemented, the K3S, is a very simple cluster. Okay, it's just for the purpose of a demonstration. Usually, what will happen is that your client will already have a Kubernetes cluster running. Okay, on EKS or on Google Cloud or on-premise, whatever your client have, you can just go there, download the manifest or the Helm file, and apply it to the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, and this will just redirect all the metrics, all the logs to New Relic, and you'll be able to start the troubleshooting from New Relic. One thing, I don't know if you did or not, the Amazon redirection, okay, and this is optional, but we'll have information from our Amazon accounts as well on the New Relic account, okay, if you did the redirection. So we have a lot of data to use, right? And at this point, like the slide says, New Relic is our single source of truth. So we have data from several places. Instead of having data on silos spread across my IT environment on some cloud services, I have everything in one single place. I can, with a single query, I can retrieve information and correlate information from on dashboards in a very, very easy way. Okay. It's good for you that are working with New Relic that you understand that we have different audiences for monitoring, right? It's good, for example, to provide to a developer information that is useful for his day-to-day job, like, for example, errors that are happening, how transactions are performing on test and development environments, logs and traces for troubleshooting, etc. Right? So it's very important to give these audience, the developers, something that is useful for his day-to-day job. Now, we may have managers, right? Managers don't care about errors or transaction traces, logs, error message, etc. They think more high level. So it would be really useful to give some information to the C-level audience, like, for example, how much are we spending on Amazon? Okay, what are the metrics for our applications? If the applications are behaving fine or not, that's it, high level, right? Capacity forecast, if we are reaching some capacity limitation on Amazon, if we are using too many instances or too many containers, if we are optimizing our environment, this is important for C-level. Now, for guys like me that work on operations, I like to have some other information like security logs, server status, network information as well. You can get a lot of useful network information from New Relic, okay? How things are performing, my virtual machines, my instances, my database, my RDS instances, and etc. Okay, so each one of the audience may require different dashboards, different information that you can start filtering and displaying for these users. So let's think about an example. How can we use the data that we have collected so far? So we have our pet clinic application, right? We have our veterinarians, and the veterinarian will tell us, I will call the help desk, for example, say, look, I cannot use the system. Can't use pet clinic. Usually this is what our users tell, right? I can use it. It's too slow, or it's not working, right? The generic information. Maybe we can make some questions to our user, and he can tell, no, it's not everything that stopped. It's just that I can't register a pet visit. Okay, we have some idea what the problem may be, just based on some questions that we do to our user. Okay. Taking a look on how our application works, and let's think that our pet clinic application is working as a distributed application like we saw yesterday. So we have the UI service, we have the vet service, we have the visit service, and we have the owner service. Okay, everything is connected to a single database, single MySQL server. Okay, so this is the way our user is actually connecting here. He said that he cannot register a visit. The other things are working. So this means he can see the veterinarians, he can see the owners, but he cannot register a visit. This is what he cannot do. Okay. New Relic will be monitoring all these containers, all these services, all these databases, right? All the servers that are hosting this solution to try to give us some insights of what may be wrong. Okay. Remember one important thing is that these containers running the pet clinic service may be running on different servers. Okay, or each container may be a pod on a deployment. They may be scaled up, scaled down, and they will be running on different Kubernetes nodes, for example. Okay, and that we have a network between the containers, and we have network between containers and MySQL database. Okay, so the problem may be anywhere. One thing we can do when we have containers, just as an example, we can take a look on container status. We can check if containers are up or down. Okay, so in this example, I have a sample dashboard showing me if all my containers for my application are running or not. Okay, these all based on events. So let me just leave this slide for a moment and go in here to my new Relic account. Okay. First thing I want to show you is that we can go here to dashboards, and we can create dashboards, as many dashboards as you want. Okay, there is no limitation about it. So just put here NRP, June 21st. Sorry, but I have a lot of things on top of the buttons here. Create. Okay, so it's an empty dashboard. Okay. Now, one thing I like to do is go to query or data and start checking about the data that I have. You saw that there that I have a dashboard with some information if my containers are running or not running. Okay. Remember, you have a lot of information to use to start creating your own dashboards. So one thing we will have for sure, it's a container table with information about containers, right? This is the events type container sample. And here, I'm sure we have a lot of data we can use. Okay, I always like to do this select from the table, select everything, to take a look on the information I have. Okay, you can see I have a lot of information over here, and I may have information about my container name. I have the API gateway, the vet service, so I kind of know, oh, this is the image, not the container name. I believe the name should be, I can see even the Docker Compose file I have been using. This is very useful for you that wants to know where the configuration for that container is coming from. And show even the path for that Docker Compose file. I find that very interesting. And I have the name of the service with a more friendly name. This is exactly the name we gave on the YML file. Okay, so I could select, for example, the service. Let me see, label Docker Compose service, and I can maybe get a state. No, status. Oh, that's weird. Do we have a running thing? Oh, the name as well we can get. Oh, the name is good. Name and status. There we go. And get state. Let's see what it gives me. I can easily see my containers and the state at this specific time. Remember, this is these are events, so this is being fed all the time, and I can see every. I can put max limit 100. I can see every 15 seconds I'm getting again the information about it. Okay, so I believe I can get name state since one. Just need to select that. Where name in, and I put here the names that I want to search. So I want the vet service. I want the visit service. I want, what else? What else is interesting for me? API gateway. What else is important for me? Prometheus not, customer service. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm just looking for information that are useful for me. I just want to see the state of my most important services. Okay, if I put since since 1 minute ago, I'll just see fewer information. And maybe if I do a Unix here, I can filter it more. But I'm just showing you, you can start seeing this kind of information. And always you see this type of information, you can name this kind of table or transform it in something else. Right now I don't have any kind of transformation formula over here, but I could say that this is my container status. You'll be doing some exercises on that on the lab. You'll be doing more or less the same process on the lab. You have the complete NRQL there to give you some graphics and information. Okay, but I want to quickly show that you can be sending this to a dashboard. Okay, you can just select one dashboard that you created. I created this one, and I want to save that to my dashboard. Okay, so you can quickly, when you are on the dashboard, you can quickly take a look on your dashboard, and you'll be knowing if your services are having some issue or not. You can even filter, for example, the NRQL to show only if the containers are not running. So you will not have useless information right here. You should be able to build something very similar to this. Okay, so I have the name of the services and if the servers are running. If I work a little bit more, I can have exactly the same thing here. I also have a graphic here showing me the amount of CPU and memory, no, just CPU, CPU percent, exactly, the CPU percent that each one of my containers are using. So I can take a look on very quickly which one is the one that is chewing more CPU. I can see the visits one is the one that is getting more CPU. Okay, so right now nothing is having a problem, but if you start seeing things like this, okay, my visits container just have a different status. Okay, exited. So this means that something is going on your container and you need to figure it out. Okay. here on my visit service, I also see that the CPU usage for visits is just reducing. This may mean the container is not working, or is unhealthy, or it's throwing me some errors. And just looking at this, right, what do you think may be the problem? Having the experience from the vet that said, I cannot register a pet visit, everything else is working. And then you see this kind of thing on the new Relic interface. What would you say is the problem, thinking that we have our distributed pet clinic application? Let's see, perhaps here, let me admit that. Anyone have an idea what may be the problem here? No, it's not working anymore, right? So we don't have this container working anymore. Okay, I could have this kind of information very quickly being displayed on my account. Let me go there and change. Anytime you want, you can change this container status widget. You can just edit. Let me do something more useful. Name and state equals, no, state not, no, different to running. Yeah, so I want exactly that. I want just to see the entries of the events where the state is different than running. Okay, so now my query will be empty because all the containers are running fine. Let me also do that widget where we get the CPU usage for the containers. So we can take a look at how to do that. Oh. From container samples, select average of CPU percent, where, let me just take everything. Average CPU percent, face it, name of the container, so I can see for each one. There we go. Okay, so you can see very easily, I can start building my NRQL, saying I want to see the average CPU percent of all the events. Facet is the group by, and I want to face it by name. Now I'm seeing the CPU usage of all the containers, including the Grafana, Prometheus, etc., which is fine. You can leave it there. When you are seeing numbers, what you can do here that is interesting on the graphs is just defining, for example, a warning threshold and a critical threshold. So you see the colors here change if there is any of the numbers crossing the threshold. Okay, let me see if I put 1.5 and here 0.5. Let me make it a little bit more fun. 0.5. There you go. Okay, so I have some in red, some in yellow, and this will show you very quickly if there is something wrong. And again, this graphic is really dynamic. Okay. As I'm doing group, face it, you can change here to some other types of graphic, like for example bar charts, or you can change to pie, like I had on the on my demonstrations. Okay, and if I only want to include the interesting containers, you can just create a where clause saying that you want only that containers. Okay. One thing that I find interesting and useful is to use the where clause with some sort of tag, not by name like I did. So remember yesterday we did custom attributes, right? You can add custom attributes to your Linux machines, to the infrastructure agent, to APM, etc. To the containers, you can do that as well. Maybe use something on the name of the containers on the Docker Compose. You can use labels as well on Docker Compose, and these labels will be seen inside the event for New Relic. So there are several ways to do that as well, to filter out what you want. Let me add this to a dashboard. containers CPU, just for you to take a look on how it looks like. And I'll be adding this to my dashboard. Let me close, and now I see this kind of thing here. If I go to my server, and let me do docker ps and do a docker stop on my visit service. Okay, I just stopped it. If I go back to New Relic, I believe in a very short time we should see an entry here telling my container is not running. Okay, the visit still appearing over here. You see, you can interact with the graphics as well. Okay, let's just wait a little bit. Come on, there we go. Okay, you saw that very quickly. In less than 1 minute, I could see that my visit service container had some problems. So I would be able to easily point out what was the problem here, because my container left. Okay. Maybe we will have some problems on the database side. Okay, it's one thing things that may happen. The database are centralizing data from several different applications. This will generate some more symptoms for you. Other users will be calling that things are not working, systems are not connecting. If you have a useful dashboard, okay, you'll be able to see, for example, that error logs for MySQL are just increasing. You can also see, for example, that SQL queries are just decreasing. Okay, so from where can I take this information here on the top? Do you guys have any idea from where I could take information from this widget to tell me if there are MySQL connection errors? Any idea from what we have instrumented so far? No ideas? Logs, maybe? SQL logs, exactly, can be the SQL logs. In the case of our pet clinic application, remember on TD...
Maybe it is not able to connect with its SQL. That's why it is not getting a CPU usage, etc.
Exactly. Something is happening on the database side, right? At least we know, oh, it's not a server problem because I'm seeing the logs. The logs are being sent to me, so the server is up. My only problem is that MySQL is not connecting. So one thing that we have here on our labs, okay, let me just start my container again here to stop sending metrics, extra metrics to New Relic. I just restarted it. What I wanted to show you, okay, so our logs, right? Let me go back to the New Relic interface, and I can query my data. Let me go to logs. And here I have some logs, and you guys have created on your side logs for, I have the Fluent logs. Where are the logs for, I don't want syslog. I want, let me see, type, this is test. I forgot the attributes file path, maybe. Syslog and source. Let's see. No, bare metal inputs. Logs. No, this is from service name. Alpha syslog. That's weird because I have collected logs from my pet clinic. Let me take a look here. From my pet clinic application. Let me see. I just want to demonstrate one thing. Maybe I will not be able to do that. Let me see if I can fix very quickly. tdagent.conf. So I'm sending data for syslog, for auth-log, and for the pet clinic. Yeah, no hub.out. Yes. And I've seen some logs here. Okay. Oh, I know why. It's because I'm not generating any log entry here. Okay, that's fine. So I'm checking this log, I'm monitoring the log, that's fine. So let's try to simulate some issue here that will generate log entries for my pet clinic application. Right now, I don't have anything written down on my pet clinic application log. I believe I can just, to see the logs there, I can echo some tests to my log file here. Let me just do that. Sudo. Oh. It's because I'm redirecting things. Sudo su. Let's see if I can open it. There we go. Okay, so I just sent a test message to see the logs on my account. There I am here. Let me refresh this screen so I can see the attributes here on the left. Come on, New Relic. There we go. Attributes, and I have my service name. There we go. Now I have my logs for pet clinic, and I have that test entry that I just sent. Okay. So what I can do, I can filter here my logs, and I want to see only the logs for my pet clinic application, nothing more. Now, if let's do one thing, one crazy thing here. Let's stop MySQL. To service. Let's stop MySQL. As soon as you stop MySQL, your pet clinic application should be shutting down. Okay. So we will start seeing some messages over here. We'll just leave the screen as it is. Let's wait for it to refresh. And on the logs for the pet clinic application, we should start seeing some errors on the MySQL side. Come on, MySQL. Right. Let me query logs again. There you go. Okay. We start to see some errors over here. And if we look at the errors, we start seeing SQL exception, connections closed. We can filter here to see MySQL as the keyword. And we are seeing a lot of MySQL connection problems. And you start seeing the graphic here showing that some problems happening. Okay. It's more or less what we are having over here. Another thing we also have, remember you guys did the MySQL instrumentation, the on-host instrumentation. I have not done on my environment, but you have done on yours. And if you go to on-host instrumentation, you'll be able to see graphs for SQL queries. Okay. Now, one good thing about New Relic that I like a lot is that if I go to one pre-built dashboard, like for example, in infrastructure, here I have the CPU usage for all my hosts. Okay. This was pre-built by New Relic. What I can do is just click these three dots and say, oh, look, I want to copy to Query Builder. Okay, so the Query Builder will show you exactly what was the NRQL needed to generate that graphic. And the good thing is that you can just change whatever you want. For example, this graphic is showing me the average CPU percent is doing a facet on entity ID. Now, the entity ID is showing me this code, which is not meaningful for me in terms of what hosts it is, this one, right? So I can just change here to, let me see, host name, something more interesting. Let me run. There you go. Now I have a host name. Also, I don't want the where clause. Let's see, I want to see for all my servers. fine. I don't want a limit as well. So you can just change the query to whatever you feel it's more useful for you, and then put here CPU usage for servers. Okay, so I learned a lot doing this kind of thing from New Relic. This is how I started learning about NRQL, checking what New Relic was doing with their dashboards, changing to something that were useful for me, and then working on it. Okay, there are a lot of these pre-built dashboards. On the MySQL integration, there are dashboards. If I go here to my Amazon collected information, okay, I can take a look, for example, on my Lambda dashboard. I can see the executions that are happening on my calculator. Okay, let's see my calculator over here, and I see now my function that I created for log ingestion, and I see the executions. So any of these widgets, you can just click here, go to Query Builder, and change to whatever you think it's more useful for you, using the autocomplete, removing things that you think that are unnecessary, adding things that you think that are necessary. Okay, so I find it really, really useful to do this kind of exercise of looking whatever New Relic is offering me to start doing my own dashboards. Okay, let me do one thing. One thing I suggest you to do is to be careful about the logs. If you start generating errors like this, Java, you saw that generate a lot of errors of things that happen, and these generate data and more data that is being sent to New Relic. Okay, so be careful on your tests to not forget these errors running and sending data to New Relic, because your account will just get a huge amount of data and you cross to 100 gigabytes, mainly on your free accounts, okay? So we don't want to do that. So it's important to resolve the issue and avoid the log collection as soon as possible. Okay, I'm just starting the MySQL again, and hopefully this will stop the errors I'm seeing on my pet clinic application. Okay. This looking for the error, I showed you looking for MySQL. In this case, I'm looking for JDBC. Also, when we start having multiple layers involved, let's say, for example, our pet clinic application just become fancy, and every time I register a visit, I have created a Lambda function that is checking for credit, right? A credit card verification. Okay, so we can have logs from Lambda as well, like I demonstrated to you on the calculator Lambda function, and you can start taking a look in a more high-level way if we are having, for example, credit verifications by the execution of my function. So I can see, okay, every time my function executes fine, this means I made a credit verification successfully. But if I have an error, I can see that I have credit verification errors. So this kind of information would be something more high level, maybe for the C-level or financial people to know if that part of my application is working fine. I'm getting this from the Lambda executions. Okay, you could get things like that as well. Let's say some C-level important information. We could get from our pet clinic the amount of money that we are getting, for example. Okay, if we use our heads a little bit, sorry, it's not the sentence. If we use our imagination a little bit, we can think that every time a visit is registered, okay, we earn a certain amount of money. Let's say each visit costs $50, $50 US. Okay, I don't know the exchange rate for rupees, but let's say $50. It's a common currency for everyone. So if I go here to Query Builder, okay, One thing all the applications have when you start monitoring the applications is the transaction event. Okay, so every time a transaction is executed on Pet Clinic, I will see the transaction here. Okay, and remember, every transaction have a name. Okay, where name equals to and then we have all the names of the transactions. So there is a transaction called visit. Okay, when someone creates a visit for a pet and it's posting the information, so it's sending the information to the web server. So actually, I can take a look here on the executions of visits that are being executed. Oh, a lot, right? So I have my bot there. Let's say this is a chain of veterinarian clinics, and we are doing, I don't know, 100 visits per minute. Right, is a lot. Let's think this is just a sale of something. But one thing we can have here, for example, is a count formula telling us how many visits we are getting. Oh, 871 since 1 day ago. So every 24 hours, for the last 24 hours, we have 1,310 visits on my system. Okay. Another thing we can do here on the select is saying, is giving an alias for this. So we run it and we say, okay, we have 1.31 thousand visits. And also we can start doing formulas, like for example, multiply by 50. Let me just do this, not plus 50, multiply by 50 as gross income. Okay, so now we can see, let's say we charge $50 per visit. In the last 24 hours, we earned $66,000. Okay, and we could add this to a dashboard as well. Okay, maybe with a line graphic growing over time or reducing over time if your business is not going well. Again, this is just an example. Okay, you can get this kind of information from a lot of other ways. I'm working now on a reservation system that I need to get what are the transactions that are storing the reservations. And I'm asking the developers to create some custom events to send to New Relic the amount of the reservation and the date when the reservation will run. So we try to extract some information to show on the New Relic side as well. Besides all the reports that the application have already done, right? So we can see this type of information as well and add to dashboards if needed. Okay. Going back here, if you need some other example, just let me know. Okay, we can run over examples. We can talk about things that you may have on your real world scenarios, and I can give you some insights.
So this information is automatically fetched from the logs itself, or have you fetched it from
the last one I demonstrated about the transaction. This
yeah.
Oh, this is getting fetched from the APM agent. Remember, this is a event type transaction. Okay, this is not log, but it could be from log as well. Okay.
But in the log, this sensitive information will not store, right?
Depends, right? Here I'm just taking the execution of something, and I'm assuming I'm earning $50 per execution. Okay, I'm doing a huge assumption that I'm earning $50 per execution. Now, if you have a log line that tells you, oh, product sold, let's say, it's on a log file, right? You could use that as well to calculate the same thing. And maybe you have even product sold and then a value, a number being written to the log file. Okay, you can on the logs you can extract fields using Grok. I don't know if you know Grok.
And it is adding it automatically. right? While running this query.
Yeah, right. This query specifically, I'm doing a huge assumption here that every execution is giving me $50.
Okay, so the calculation is already applied by ourselves itself. So
yeah,
if there is an actual value, if we want to identify like a credit card number, or you can say the revenue generated by a particular product in a day or 2 day, right?
Okay.
So how we can do that?
Yeah, this will require your developer to change the application to be able to send a custom event to New Relic. Okay, because we cannot New Relic will not retrieve this information for you automatically. It does not know how your application is working, what's storing on the database. Actually, you saw on the traces on the second day that we can enable trace and see the actual SQL query that is being thrown to the database. But we don't know how to work out that information. We cannot retrieve that information to do calculations like this.
So can we fetch out any numerical value, integer value, or a string value from a method itself if we know the class and method?
If you know, you need to ask the developer to add some functions. Let me show you one thing here. Let's see, it's Java, right? Java custom events, New Relic. Report custom events and attributes. There you go. Okay. This will depend on your developer to do some things on the application. Okay, and this document will show you more or less how could you store this kind of thing depending on the language that you're using. Okay, I will leave this link to you guys on the chat, but my answer to this question is yes, it is possible for it to retrieve things. Okay. It is possible for you to extract information from the application, but the application needs, the code needs to allow you to do that, right? So I'm just sending you this kind of thing. You could test on Pet Clinic maybe, because the code is there. You can compile and then do your own testing to see if you can retrieve some kind of information. But it's not that simple. That's why we don't do the exercise here on these labs, because it may take some more time, but it's an interesting exercise to do. If you want to take a look here, let me know over the lab time. Maybe we can do something on the Pet Clinic code. Okay, it will take some time, but let's see. Take a look if you can find. Okay. If you know Java, it would be something good to have. Okay, but it's possible. It's possible for you to extract things and start showing as information here. Oh, information here on your Relic. Always possible. My answer
as you talked about the dashboard, I'm okay with that. As you talked about the dashboards, can we illustrate entire business journey for a particular transaction?
Adding like, C-level, okay, like adding C-level like, information for.
Yeah, take an example like there is a credit card company whose that much application is being applied by end user to that company in 1 day or a month, right? And out of that much application being verified as per the document get verified, right? And again, once the document get verified, the physical verification is already completed. Then again, the number of credit card being issued by this company during a certain time frame. So that is a entire flow, right? So can we create a dashboard around it in New Relic itself? Means which can showcase this entire journey with the proper count of that particular number of applications.
Yeah, there are functions on the query builder. Okay, I believe you have, for example, the funnel function. Okay, for NRQL, the funnel will take something in common between transactions or between any kind of event type that you have. So let's say we are talking about transactions and we want to see each one of our users, how many use the search, how many select the product, how many put the product in the basket, and how many purchase the product, right?
That would be
That
fine,
would be
yeah.
more or less, right? So we'll be using the funnel function, okay? The funnel function will take one information that is common between all these executions, like for example, a session ID. Okay, I don't have a way to demonstrate here for you this because our pet clinic does not store this kind of information as session. But we could do something around that as well. Okay, HTTP session. We could use the HTTP session for that and see how many went from one transaction to the other and to the other and to the other, and this will create a funnel widget for you showing the journey. It's possible to do that as well. Okay.
Okay.
Maybe I can take a look on the code as well for on the transactions. Maybe try to find something similar for each visit, and we could try to do something around that on the lab time as well. Okay, for using the funnel one. I'll try to make something useful and then I can demonstrate to you back. Good. Oh, Himanshu, thank you for letting me know. It's just because I was explaining here and I haven't seen, but I have already allowed Abdullah to come in.
Thank you.
Welcome. So let me go back here. Another interesting thing, and I believe you guys all have questions about it, is the new Relic alerts. Okay, we will be doing alerts on the labs. I want to give you a lot of time for the labs because we have the break fix, but just to let you know, New Relic have a lot of alerting tools that can help us, okay, to know when things are happening using very different and broad communication channels. You can receive alerts by email. You can receive alerts by Slack if you're using Slack. Webhooks can send alerts to anywhere, and so on and so forth. Okay, you can integrate with Jira. You can integrate with from PagerDuty, other systems as well. So we have a lot of options to send information. Okay, so for example, on that example I told you where a container stopped, I could create an alert based on an NRQL query. Then if the NRQL query have more than one event, then I want to throw an event to an alert policy, and the policy will be sending me an email or it will be sending a Slack message for me to know. Okay, if the CPU usage is high, I also want to know about it. So this tool from New Relic is actually very easy to use, the part of the alerts. Let me just close this. If you go here to the top, you have the alerts and AI, and here you have your notification channels. This is the first thing you need to do, is to define where you want to notify things. Okay. New Relic will have your email by default, your account email. You can add as many notification channels as you want. Okay, so it can be another email or it can be something else. Okay, if you don't see things here, like for example, Jira, Jira, for example, is on infrastructure integration. First, you need to integrate, and then it will appear over here. Okay, but there are things sometimes you need to integrate first. Depends on the solution you want to use. I will not add anything here, but you could add your own emails if you want. Okay, or whatever other notification channel you want. Then we have policies. Okay. The policies will define when we will trigger an alert. Anytime you can create a new policy, okay, you can call it, for example, infrastructure monitoring, and the incident preference will tell New Relic how many times we need to send an alert about the issue. If you select by policy, it will just send once if any of the conditions have been crossed by any entity that you're monitoring. Okay, just one alert to your email. Now, if you tell by condition, every time a condition is crossed, then it will be sending an email, warning and critical thresholds. And by condition and signal, we'll be sending one alert for every entity that have a specific problem. Okay, so be careful when you choose one of those, and you have a documentation that explains that in detail if you want to know more details about each one of the conditions. I will just leave by policy here, the default one, so I don't want to be overwhelmed with emails. And then you can create conditions. Okay, there are several conditions you can use. You can make alerts on synthetics checks if they fail, on infrastructure metrics, CPU high, memory high, browser if the user experience is not so good, etc. APM using all the metrics that we have from APM agents, okay? And also by NRQL. You can just make up your own alert. Okay, like for example, I had my visits pet clinic container stopping. So if the status is exited and the log file contains something, I can create an NRQL query for each one. Then I want the alerts to trigger. So let me do here, as I'm doing infrastructure, let me do here infrastructure. When I click here, I'm just being brought to alerts on the infrastructure side, and then I can monitor anything here. Okay, we can monitor hosts, network metrics, process metrics. We can monitor service, I believe, as well. Oh, there are things. Just if the host is not reporting, whatever. There are a lot of things we can monitor. If a process is running, okay, there's a lot of things you can monitor on your environment. I'm just taking the host metrics and putting here if CPU is above 80% for at least 2 minutes, then send me a warning, a critical warning. Okay, you can see here if you are crossing the line. So let me put here a little bit lower, like 10%, for at least 3 minutes, for at least 1 minute. I don't have enough data. Let me put here 5%, maybe. No, it's because it's too low. Put 2%. Well, that's too low. No, it should be showing here the red for at least 5 minutes. Should be showing red. I'm not sure why it's not working. Usually it shows red when the server have crossed the line. CPU is above 2-3%. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure why it's not working, but it should show here. And then it will be sending. You'll be sending the alert to one policy. You can just select the policy you just created. You can create a new one if you want, and then you can just create that specific policy. It will not create here, but this is just to give you an idea of things that you can do on your environment. Let me see why it's leaving red here. It's above, or at least, I don't know. You can specify hosts as well if you don't want to filter for everything. The filter can be a tag, can be a name, can be whatever can be a custom tag of yours as well, like only the production servers, and then you will be able to create the policy if you want. Okay. A name. I need to put a name for that. Server CPU high. There we go. I was just looking for what was wrong here. Create, and then now I have a policy for that. Okay. You can see here there is a lot of things that I have created here to let me know if something is not working, if a pod is not up, if a log message is detected. So anything is subject for you to search and to add alerts. Okay. One thing you will notice on the logs that I like a lot here on logs is that if you are looking for one specific log, let me put here MySQL error, right? I had some errors happening. You see that some errors happening in the past because I have disabled the MySQL, and here you can create an alert condition from this query you just created. Okay, so just open your wizard and tell, look, when the count from logs when you have an error is higher than something, okay, like for example, it's above 1 for at least 5 minutes, and it will show you, okay, here it will be giving a critical threshold. Now it's working here, the graphic. Then it will send an email to someone. Okay, this is something you can do as well. I like a lot to create alerts from log messages. First, I like to generate problems myself to see what logs are being generated, and then based on that strings, I create my own log alerts. Okay, you can do the same thing if you want on the environment. Okay, I don't know if you have any other questions for now.
Hey Marcelo, this is Sachin
Yes.
here. Marcelo, what role AI plays in that alert tab? You have alerts and AI, right?
Yes, we have the AI here.
What role it plays here?
Yeah, the AI part, we don't cover the AI on this training because it's a lot of other things we need to go over through. But basically, AI detects when it tries to avoid you from getting unuseful alerts. Okay. New Relic knows that when you start setting up these alerts, you may start receiving an alert that the service is stopped or CPU is high and memory is high. And with the time you say, that's fine, the server is just using a lot of CPU and it should be like this way. But you keep receiving the alerts and you will tend to ignore the alerts, right? And then when a real alert comes, maybe you not give the importance it needs to troubleshoot the issue. Now, AI detects this kind of anomalies and try to suppress or send as many useful alerts as possible for you, but without overwhelming what you are receiving. And it can also do correlation things, like if the database is throwing errors and the visit service have stopped and having some errors as well, you can start doing correlation between types of errors and sending a more useful alert saying that the problem is exactly in the database because of this error correlation. So we have a lot of things we can configure on AI decisions, what to do when something happens. As well, we can start doing some actions with AI to try to resolve issues. But for now, we will not go over much on this field because this is a separate training we deliver as well. Okay, it's a 2-day training only for the AI, but the AI will be optimizing the alerts that you have. Okay, but you can create the alerts without enabling AI. Okay, and they will work as well. I like to create the alerts in a smart way so I don't get overwhelmed by alerts as well. Okay.
Okay. And Marcelo, you don't have a ServiceNow integrations, right? So if you want to do ServiceNow integrations, then which method you will use to create the incidents?
Okay, for ServiceNow, let me see. I don't remember if we have. Oh, not settings. Let me take a look here. Third party. Okay.
There is one in incident section actually. Alerts and AI.
It's an alerts, okay.
Yeah, if you just go to that destinations under incident intelligence, you will be able to
Yeah,
find
I never used the ServiceNow. I'm not sure how to set it up, but I just take a look on the documentation. I'm sure you'll find instructions on how to do that. I work a lot with Jira, and you can open issues and then update the issues. New Relic will receive the information from the issue as well, and then you keep updating until it's closed. So I believe ServiceNow will work more or less the same way. I'm not sure exactly what are the steps to do it. But I'm sure you'll find documentation for that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, Sachin, thank you. Okay. Well, I don't have any other slides to share with you. Okay, this